Hi, everybody, and welcome to our project information meeting for the 102nd Avenue Roadway Improvements Project. I'm Tony Fabrizio of Pinellas County Communications. We have about 174 people registered for this meeting, so we know there's a lot of interest. We're looking forward to sharing information about the project and answering your questions. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the project website within a couple of days. With that, I'd like to introduce Pinellas County Public Works Director Kelly Hammer-Levy for opening comments. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Tony. So good evening, everyone. As you heard Tony say, we have at least 174 people registered for the meeting tonight, which is absolutely amazing. First, thank you to all of you who took the time to share your thoughts, whether through comment cards on the project website, on social media, or in conversations with our project manager, Kathy Fernandez. We really appreciate you being part of the conversation. We also want to acknowledge that most of the feedback we've received so far we haven't fully explained all the project details and considerations. So that's what tonight's about. So we're glad that you're here to learn more, and we hope that the presentation will help clarify the goals and approach. Afterward, we'd love for you to fill out a new comment card with any updated thoughts. And if you know someone who couldn't make it tonight, please let them know they can watch the recording of the entire meeting and share their input as well. There's a link to the comment card in the yellow box at the top of the project webpage. This project has been a long time in the making. Since we first started talking about improvements along this stretch of 102nd Avenue back in 2006, a number of changes were made based on what was heard from the community previously and what we've heard along the way. We're very confident that the ideas we're here to share with you will help make the corridor safer, improve traffic flow, address a long-standing intersection issue, and enhance the existing drainage system that's out there today. So again, thank you for being here and for staying engaged. It really means a lot. And now I'll hand things back over to Tony.
Thanks, Kelly. Next up, Senior Engineer Arturo Martinez is going to come on, share his screen, and give a presentation that will go into all the details about the project. Arturo, are you ready?
Yes. Thanks, Tony. Let me share my screen here. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our virtual project information meeting for the 102nd Avenue Roadway Improvements Project. My name is Arturo Martinez. I'm a senior engineer with Pinellas County. Tonight, we'll go over the project location and background, existing roadway conditions, safety concerns for the area, the purpose and goals of the improvements. We're going to describe the proposed improvements and the anticipated impacts during construction. Lastly, we'll go over the design and construction schedule and provide you with contact information for any questions you may have. This project is located on 102nd Avenue North, from west of 125th Street to 113th Street. The existing roadway consists of two 11-foot wide lanes with 4-foot paved shoulders and left turn lanes at various locations throughout the limits. There are sidewalks on both sides of the roadway with open ditches and swales present throughout the project limits. The intersection at 125th Street is unsignalized. There's currently a traffic signal at 113th Street and the Pinellas Trail intersections. The Rich Road intersection has a bidirectional median opening. A preliminary engineering report was completed back in 2007. The recommended alternative from that report was to widen the roadway from 2-lane to 4-lane with a raised median. Based on the feedback that we received from public at 3 separate public information meetings held between 2007 and 2009, and the projected costs, that project was canceled. In 2021, Pinellas County prepared a project development study. Again, to consider various alternatives to improve 102nd Avenue North. The project development study identified various improvements that are being developed into this project to improve road safety, traffic flow, pedestrian features, and water quality within the project limits. Our team analyzed crash data from our crash data management system. Here we summarize that crash data from 2019 to 2024 at each intersection within the project limits. The information allowed us to design for the specific needs along the roadway and at intersections to enhance the safety. The intersection at 102nd Avenue and 113th Street is a major intersection and had a crash count of 42. Another key intersection within the project limits is the intersection at 102nd Avenue and Rich Road with 22 crashes. There's some serious concerns, safety concerns at the Rich Road intersection. As shown in some of these pictures captured, some of the drivers are making frequent dangerous turns due to the channelized median restricting north-south movement through the intersection. Also, we've noted long traffic queue trying to turn left from 102nd Avenue onto Rich Road. This long queue is an issue for local residents, and it creates delays along 102nd for passerby traffic. The project's primary goals are to reduce crashes and improve the safety for all road users along the roadway and at intersections. This applies to local residents and for through traffic that drives 102nd on their way to and from work, but don't necessarily live in the area. We want to improve roadway conditions by adding a center two-way turn lane to allow easy and safe access to adjacent properties. Enhance pedestrian and cyclist safety by providing wider sidewalks and improve crossings at the Pinellas Trail. Improve traffic efficiency by providing turn lanes and modifying the intersections to reduce the traffic delays. We also want to improve water quality within the project limits. This is the proposed design, including a 3-lane roadway with a center two-way left turn lane, curb and gutter, an 8-foot sidewalk on the south side, which is shown on the right of the figure, and a 5-foot sidewalk on the north side. This 3-lane concept was supported in 2007 by citizens concerned with a 4-lane divided option proposed in that preliminary engineering report. The center two-way left turn will provide safer conditions for accessing adjacent properties and avoids blocking traffic along 102nd Avenue. As we travel through the project site from west to east, these are the proposed improvements. A traffic signal with steel mast arms will be added at 125th Street North, with the appropriate turn lane lengths considering current traffic data. 102nd Avenue North will be milled and resurfaced and improved to the 3-lane roadway with center two-way left turn lane and an 8-foot wide sidewalk along the south side of the roadway. As we move through the corridor, we continue to see the proposed 3-lane improvements and the 8-foot wide sidewalk on the south side. There's currently a traffic signal at the Pinellas Trail. However, there is not a traffic signal for Ashley Drive. So the trail crossing will be realigned and the traffic signal improved to steel mast arms, which will allow for the signalization of the trail and Ashley Drive. The 8-foot sidewalk will continue along the south side of 102nd Avenue east of Richview Lane, and the parking area next to the trail will be paved with this project. This is the last section of our project up to 113th Street, where we are upgrading the traffic signals to steel mast arms, designing a roundabout at Rich Road, and continuing an 8-foot wide sidewalk along the south side of 102nd Avenue. Next, I'll discuss our approach for the roundabout design at the Rich Road intersection. So we've analyzed the Rich Road intersection for different alternatives to enhance the safety and traffic flow with some options including traffic signal, single-lane roundabout, 2-lane roundabout. And I'm going to discuss the pros and cons for each of these options. The pros of traffic signal options are that this will provide turn lanes for all directions, improve traffic and pedestrian flow to cross the intersection safely. The cons of this are that this will increase the traffic delays of the adjacent 113th Street intersection during peak times. It also increases delays at Rich Road throughout the day, potential for increased rear end crashes, and ultimately, this option does not meet the required signal spacing due to the proximity of the signal at 113th Street. The single-lane roundabout option would reduce the speeds along 102nd Avenue, reduce crash severity, provides continuous traffic movements from all directions, and provides safe pedestrian movement with a pedestrian crossing and flashing beacons. However, the single-lane nature of this roundabout will significantly increase traffic delays at the adjacent 113th Street intersection, as it does not provide the necessary roadway capacity. The benefits of the proposed two-lane roundabout are similar to the single-lane roundabout, but this option provides the needed capacity to move traffic through and around the intersection, which will reduce delays at 113th Street intersection. While this option will require a period of driver adjustment, it will improve the safety of the intersection, eliminating unsafe movements of north and southbound traffic that we discussed earlier. This roundabout will allow for the proper movement of vehicles in all directions of travel for local residents and drivers that use 102nd as part of their daily commute. Roundabouts are a proven way to enhance safety by reducing vehicle speeds, reducing the number of severity of crashes, improving traffic efficiency, and provide improved pedestrian safety through shorter crossing distances and nighttime visibility. This proposed roundabout is not like the Clearwater roundabout, so we wanted to show a similar example based on the traffic flow and patterns. This image is an aerial view of a two-lane roundabout at 40th Street and East River Hills Drive, which was constructed 12 years ago in Hillsborough County. Since that time, FDOT has collected data that shows 71% decrease in crashes at this intersection and conducted a public engagement that shows 73% of public responses are positive about the roundabout after construction. For more information, we have this relevant case scenario with video of traffic going through this intersection in our project webpage. This is a graphic showing the aerial view of the proposed two-lane roundabout at 102nd Avenue with the pedestrian crossings, flashing beacons, and pavement markings. This is what the intersection looks like now at 102nd Avenue and Rich Road. This is looking south on Rich Road. And this is a 3D graphic showing the proposed street view looking south on Rich Road again at this intersection. Similarly, this is the intersection looking east from 102nd Avenue, and this is what it looks like now. And this is a 3D graphic of the proposed improvements looking east from 102nd Avenue. There are approximately 4 trees anticipated to be impacted with the options mentioned at the Rich Road intersection. No other trees are expected to be impacted along 102nd Avenue as part of this project. Based on the intersection options analyzed, crash history, and safety concerns, we are recommending the two-lane roundabout to enhance the safety and traffic efficiency at the Rich Road intersection. Again, we only anticipate having to remove 4 trees at the Rich Road intersection, and an easement is needed from St. Petersburg College to address necessary drainage adjustments at Rich Road. During construction of the project, access to homes will be maintained. It's anticipated that 1 lane of traffic will remain open in each direction with temporary lane closures for some operations. As we move forward with the project, we will post this presentation on the project website, and your feedback will be reviewed and addressed as the design progresses. We look forward to continue receiving your feedback and responding to your comments through communication with our project manager, publishing information on the webpage, or if necessary, future public information meetings. Final project design is anticipated in the spring of 2026, advertisement for construction in the summer of 2026. Then construction is anticipated to begin in early 2027 and be completed in early 2028. Thank you for reviewing this presentation. For additional information, feel free to reach out to the county's project manager, Kathy Fernandez, at the email and phone number provided. This project is funded by Penny for Pinellas, and we thank you for your support in helping improve our community. And with that, I'll pass it back to Tony.
Thanks, Arturo. And you can keep your camera on. Now we'll move into the Q&A portion of the program. Okay. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Zoom, if you move your cursor to the bottom of the screen, you'll bring up a toolbar that includes the Q&A icon and the raised hand. You'll see those on the slide. The toolbar may be at the top of the screen if you're on an iPad or a cell phone. You'll have 3 ways to ask a question or offer a comment. First and easiest, you can type a question into the Q&A box. We'll read and answer those as they come in. Second, you can click on the raised hand to be placed into a queue to be called on to talk. And third, if you phoned in, you can press *9 on your keypad to be placed into that same queue to speak. If you're having technical difficulty trying to ask a a question, you can call in at one of the numbers here shown on the screen. Our goal is to answer every question, and as we go through this process, we'll mix in typed questions, raised hands, and call-ins. We're going to try to avoid answering questions that have already been asked and answered. And if you're going to speak, we do ask that you hold your comments to 1 minute so that we can get to everybody. Now, for our panel of experts. You've already met Arturo, and I'll introduce the other people who are going to be on our panel. First, our transportation section manager, Rob Metter. Hi, Rob.
Hello, Tony. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
And next, our transportation division director, Tom Washburn. Hey, Tom.
Yes. Good evening, Tony, and good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight.
And from our design contractor, DRNP, we have Pavan Payavulu and I'm sorry about that, Payavulu and Scott Garth. Guys, come on, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Hello.
And
Scott Garth here.
thanks, guys. And I have one more person to introduce, and that's Joan Rice, our multimodal safety engineer from Pinellas County Transportation. She's going to come on and moderate. Joan, I think we're ready to get started.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And we already have a couple of hands raised, and we also have some questions. Just wanted to make sure everyone understand that we might see duplicates of the questions. So once we've answered the question, we will just let you know that we've already answered that question. So let's start with a few of the written questions, and then we'll take a few hands. Is that all right, Tony?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay. The first one up is, how far west of the roundabout will be 4 lanes? Pavan, will you answer?
Yes, it's about 500 feet to the west, which will which will become a right turn lane onto the street called Thurston Grove Boulevard. The outermost lane will become a right-only lane.
Okay, thank you. And just as a follow-up, it is 4 lanes then all the way to the east then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next question, is there more noise pollution by putting in a traffic light? And Toro, will you answer that question? If not, I can ask Tom.
Yeah, I think Tom will be better for that one.
Sure, not a problem. Yep, thanks for the question. I don't know that there's necessarily more noise pollution. There will be some additional noise with traffic and vehicles that slow down and then as they accelerate. But it shouldn't be anything abnormal.
Next question is: are these changes are not final? Yes, Arturo?
Yeah. So right now we're at a 60% design. And we're presenting what we have so far. We're taking in your input, and we'll continue to move through the project with the input that we receive from here and what Kathy gets from your comments.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Tony, let's take a couple of hands.
Okay, Dennis Pikowitz, you're first up, and I'm going to unmute you from my end, and then you'll need to unmute yourself to speak.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, yes, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Yes.
All right, hey, appreciate the opportunity for input. I live right on 102nd Avenue. My office is upstairs. I have a window and look out at 102nd all day long. I lived here for 40 plus years. Anyway, first though, I thought I just heard Joan say it's 4 lanes all the way to the east. Currently, by the Pinellas County Trail, it's 3 lanes. It's east, west, and a center turn lane. Are you going to add another lane?
Pavan, will you answer that question? Because I meant to the east towards 113.
Can somebody please pull up the overview plan? I think it helps to be able to see it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that.
I just have one critical follow-on after that.
Okay.
Okay, so from the trail west, it's the same 3 lanes.
Correct. And for the project side, and I'll move through the project side a little bit here. We are anticipating this 3-lane through the majority of the project. And I'll leave this here while we maybe address some of the other questions. And Pavan, you can jump in, right? But the typical will be this 3-lane throughout, where we're giving this additional center 2-way left turn. And then we get to the point where we're meeting Thurston Groves Boulevard. And there we start this 4-lane to go through the intersection at Ridge Road and through up till 113th Street.
Do we have a graphic that shows where Thurston's Grove is?
So they'll need to merge from 2 to
right.
1 lane just past
Okay.
the roundabout.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Dennis,
They'll
Dennis,
merge.
does that help?
They'll merge from 2 lanes to 1 lane once they get past the roundabout, unless they make a right into Thurston Groves.
Correct.
Dennis, did you have a quick follow-up question?
Yeah, the curbs. So we have just a grass boundary. The garbage men, when they empty those canisters, they leave them in the middle of my driveway. If I have a curb, I'm going to have to stop in traffic to move the can because I won't have any other way to get into my property. I'd rather not have a curb.
Arturo, is that something that maybe we can work out directly with him?
Yeah, I mean, that's a comment we'll take into account.
Thank you.
We'll have to go back and take a look at that.
Okay.
And the mailman, he pulls off there to.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis.
Joan, we have another question from Barbara Wilmerth.
Okay.
Barbara, I'm going to unmute you on my end, and you'll have to unmute yourself to ask your question.
Me?
Yeah, we can barely hear you.
Good. So, yeah, I know construction won't be convenient for any of us, but when it's done, I think that the roundabout at Ridge makes very good sense. What I'm really not understanding is why we need a light at 125th. I'm here right, my exit on to 102nd is at Hazel.
Okay. Pavan, was there some additional information for the 125th? I mean, did we look at a roundabout at that location or any other?
We did look at the roundabout alternative at the 125th intersection as well, along with the signal option. Based on the both options, we chose signalization because it provides better level of service for the intersection, avoids any delays, and makes sure the pedestrians crosses with their green time whenever they push the button, and they can cross the 102nd Avenue safely to access the schools and the adjacent properties, as well as the Walsingham Park.
So it really has more to do about people getting to the schools properly.
Yeah, connection, yes.
Yeah.
Connecting to the sidewalks and the properties.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Rather not have that light, but anyway, my turn's done.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you for your comment. Joan, our queue for the Q&As is getting pretty large. You want to take some of those?
Okay, well then let's keep going. Let's see.
Because we just usually get some beach.
Okay, the next question is, will the speed limit going west after the new light be reduced due to the reduced distance to the light? Pavan, are there any changes to the speed limit?
No, same speed limit.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, how much will this project cost? Arturo?
Yeah, so right now the project budget is $15.7 million for the full project.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, what is the car volume of the Hillsborough roundabout compared to this new roundabout? You started adding people crossing at the roundabout. You will add a whole new risk to pedestrians. Thanks. I don't know, Tom, do you have the volume comparison for Hillsborough County roundabout to this roundabout?
I don't, but what I will say is that, it's comparative in that it's a 2-lane roundabout. It's in the same type of neighborhood. I think 40th Street in Hillsborough County carries about the same amount of traffic, maybe actually a little bit more than 102nd. In terms of the pedestrian safety, what we showed there with the roundabout would be some RRFB crossings across each approach as well. There's also a pedestrian refuge that separates each direction of traffic. So safety to the best, combined with the reduced speed of traffic entering the roundabout, that should prove to be a safety enhancement for the pedestrians as well.
Right. And also, when the analysis was done, we added the amount of trips that would be going north-south into that roundabout. It's not like we are only used the amount of trips that are going through that area now. So moving on, is the grassy area in front of our home on the corner of 102nd and Nina, will it become a swale? Pavan, do you know if that grassy area will become a swale?
No, we are anticipating that to be piped. And we're talking about the intersection of Nina Street, right?
Okay, thank you. And next question is, what is the benefit of the turn signal at 125th? Pavan?
We already went over that question before, to connect the sidewalk connectivity, or connect to the schools and the park.
And that includes that, and that's mainly the turn signal.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. What will be different about the trail crossing? Pavan?
So currently the trail is going diagonally across 102nd Avenue. We are making it as a cross 102nd perpendicularly now. If you have the graphic open, you can just share the screen. And to have a separate signal for trail. Right now it has a separate signal for trail, but we are adding a same signal for both Ashley Drive and the trail signal. It will improve the safety and avoid any confusion.
Thank you. And Arturo is pulling up so we can look at that intersection now. You can see how we're including Ashley Drive in with this trail, Pinellas Trail crossing. Okay, thank you. Will noise barriers be installed along the road? Pavan?
No.
Thank you. And then why not maintain 5 lanes for the length of the project? 2 lanes east and 2 west with a center 2-way turn lane from Sandy. This is from a Sandy Woods resident. And I think that Arturo answered that during the presentation. So Arturo, you want to repeat that?
Sure. So based on the feedback that we got from the original project engineering report we did in 2007, because of the cost back then and some of the feedback we got from the community, we weren't able to keep that 4-lane roadway throughout the whole project site.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, why not a pedestrian bridge on the trail over 102nd? Arturo, did we look at pedestrian bridges?
Yeah, so we don't have enough county right-of-way to consider that option. It was something that we discussed briefly. Currently, the project does not have the budget to include that bridge, but it's something that we've looked at, and we just don't have the space for that bridge.
Okay, thank you. And Tom, as a follow-up, could you tell us about the signal timing at the trail? I mean, will that be all synced, or is it just on demand?
Absolutely. So today we have made some adjustments here recently. It used to be when somebody came up and pushed the button, the light turned green for the trail crossing and stopped traffic on 102nd. What we've done is we've modified that so that once the trail gets serviced, there's a minimum amount of green time that's provided to 102nd Avenue before that light will cycle back through. So that's the way it currently operates. We've gotten some feedback that has improved the conditions out there. With this new configuration, it will be tied into the signal there at Ashley Drive. It'll also allow us to coordinate the new signal at 125th and also the signal at 113th. The spacings line up nicely in terms of being able to maintain progression. So once this project is completed and those signals are in place, it'll be coordinated a lot better, and you'll get better platoons on 102nd Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Let's take one more question, then we'll go to raise hands again. Just how much attention is going to be given to this feedback? I mean, are your plans basically agreed on in advance? Arturo, I think that Kelly mentioned this during her opening speech, but will you explain how important this feedback is?
Yeah, so I mean, we're very glad to have a lot of people attending this meeting, and we are continuing to take your feedback, right? We've taken your feedback to prepare for this presentation, so we're answering some of the questions that we've had in the past week, 2 weeks, while we had the comment cards open, and we'll continue to address your feedback as we design the project. Right now we're at 60%. As we move through the design up to 100%, we'll continue to address your feedback in that design.
Thank you. Thank you. Tony, we're going to go ahead and take a raised hand, but in order to make sure that we get everybody have a chance, let's pick somebody that hasn't spoken yet.
Okay, Robert Glass, thank you for waiting patiently. I've unmuted you, and if you unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Have I unmuted successfully?
Yes, you have.
Thank you. I like some of the things that are being considered here, but one of my concerns is I used to live on the south side, exiting onto when I wanted to go somewhere from the south side. But now for 15 years, I've lived on the north side. And I don't know if it's being understood by most folks involved in this, that is one of the worst areas to entrance yourself onto 102nd to go east. There's probably about 6 streets or so, like starting at 113, 1450 on up. And then there's another 6 or maybe some more driveways going up to 125th. But nothing happens for us who have to get on and want to go 90% of the time probably to go east, because now you've added a lane in between, whereas now you have to stretch it to cover 2 lanes to get out, to make your left-hand turn. And that's where we mostly get bogged up and lined up in our driveways and getting access to 102nd going east. Is there any way to solve that? Because that middle lane sounds like it just adds a little more distance and problems to doing that.
Okay. Pavan, would you answer first, and then maybe Tom Washburn can follow up?
Yeah, may I know where the actual concern is when you say exiting to south? You talking about any particular segment of this project limits?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand you.
You say exiting to the south side. You mean, is there any particular project segment you had concerns with? Like, which part of the southern segment you're talking about accessing it?
The entire segment from about 113, mostly from the trail up to 125th. All of us who live on the north side who want to mostly go left when we come out of our developments because, there's more to the left at the airport and et cetera, et cetera. So making that left-hand turn for us, 6 or 7 streets and another 6 or 7 driveways is really very difficult. And at times you have to wait for 3 or 4 minutes, and you almost have to take a risk in making that left-hand turn to get out there because the traffic coming from the east side and heading, from the west side, and heading east. So adding a 3rd lane just means we have a longer stretch to make that left to get into the lane heading east, since we're on the north side of 102nd Avenue. Am I making myself clear? Probably not.
Yes, I'm clear now. Adding a 3rd lane in the middle, like a 2-way left-hand lane, it actually acts like a refuge area. You don't have to just cross extra distance just like that. You need to just stay in the middle and make sure you're safer and make that turn completed safely. So the added left-hand lane actually helps you to stay there, and you don't have to just force yourself to just make all the way left-hand lane all at once.
Okay. I'm not sure I agree with that, but making a left-hand turn into that lane and then just stopping And then having traffic passing you at 40 miles an hour going both ways is not quite as well as sitting back into the street you're trying to exit from. But I understand what you're saying.
Actually, let Rob answer a little bit more too.
Well, thanks, John. What we typically find with this type of design, when we go from a 2-lane roadway to a 3-lane roadway, which is what this is, with the 2-way center turn lane in the middle, or we go from a 4-lane divided to a 5-lane section, which is the same thing, but with 2 lanes in each direction. Adding that center 2-way turn lane actually frees up the traffic that is going straight through in the through lane, such that it develops spaces between the vehicles. So what you see now that you experience today is a problem because vehicles back up one behind the other because no one can make that left to turn into driveways or cross streets on the south side and the north side as well if you're going in the eastbound direction. But adding that 2-way center turn lane, if anyone wants to turn left, it gets them out of that through movement, puts them in the center of the roadways in a safe location where they can then complete their left turn. And it frees up that traffic flow so that it actually creates some gaps between the vehicles. And then that gives you the opportunity then to make your left coming out of your driveway or your side street to then continue on. Now, some people do stop in that center 2-way turn lane, and that is possible. I agree with you. It's not always the most advantageous thing to do. Wait for the gap and then make your left. But it can be done. And looking through your side mirror, you can see traffic coming behind you and then make complete your left turn lane or your left turn movement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
We'll do one more, Joan, and then we'll go back to the Q&A. Okay.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Mr. Peter Steele, if you want to unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Okay, I've lived in the Seminole Grove area for, I guess, 34 years now. I am familiar with this area. This is stretches that I often walk my dogs in the evenings. My concern with putting a roundabout at the Ridge Road intersection is that this will make the Ridge Road continuous north and south and will greatly increase the amount of traffic on Ridge Road. And it will also become a bypass for 113th for people that want to zip down Ridge Road instead of waiting for the traffic, north-south traffic on 113th. And for the northbound Ridge Road, replacing the current setup for the northbound traffic on Ridge Road with roundabout is less safe. The right turn followed by a U-turn if you need to, the current setup has been shown to be much safer than a multi-lane roundabout. I would also, on a different topic, would suggest give us back the suits, the turn indicator, turn lanes and turn chutes at 102 and 113th. That will help reduce the congestion. And the third point I would like to step in here is sidewalks. The north side sidewalk is virtually unused. I very, very seldom see any pedestrians on the north side sidewalk. To duplicate a sidewalk by having it on the north side and on the south side, I think is frivolous. If you want to put a bicycle lane in there somewhere, maybe, but I just can't see the need to put a sidewalk on the south side of the street, especially since you are planning good crossing areas with the trail, and there's good crossing at 113th. So I'm sorry for putting several comments in there, but so be it.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for all of those comments. Tony, we'll move on to the written questions again, if that's all right.
Yeah, let's do that, John. Thanks.
Okay. Next question is, will cyclists be steered to the 8-foot sidewalk instead of the roadway? Rob, will you answer this question?
Sure. No, they will not be steered to that 8-foot wide sidewalk. That sidewalk is there for connectivity for all pedestrians, but also for cyclists looking to get from the trail location to the college down on 113th Street and over to the park area. So it's going to be used for that purpose specifically, but not for traffic or bikes to actually get off of the roadway to then get on that trail. They will not be steered to that.
Okay. Thank you. Next question is, consider the 4 large oaks that will be removed. What species of trees will be used in replacement? And will it be required that they be native and comparable tree species with regard to the habitat loss from the trees removed? And I believe that the tree species have not been decided yet, but Arturo, could you expand on that?
Yeah, so we're working with our arborist and our team with Pinellas County. When we have a project like this and we have trees that need to be removed due to the project, we always do our best to replace those trees within the area of work. And that's a process that we'll get into once we complete the design, go into the construction. We'll start working with our arborists to determine what trees are actually coming off and what trees we're replacing them with to make sure that they are comparable and that they meet the nativity of the scene.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dennis has another question. He had mentioned this about the curb, not wanting the curb in front of his house. So thank you, Dennis, for typing your question in as well, but it's been answered. So we're going to move on to the next one. And that one is, will the pedestrian signal west of 125th remain with the improvements at 125th? Arturo, do you know about the pedestrian signal to the west?
I can answer that, Joan, if you want.
Okay, thank you.
I believe this is the RFB crossing that goes into the park, and I believe that's intended to remain in place.
Okay, thank you. And the next one is, why is Nina Street missing from your diagrams? And Arturo, do you know where Nina Street is?
I believe it's right here. So missing because it may be covered by trees, but it's there. We are working through it, and it's part of the project.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And what is the plan for drainage? So far, there's been no flooding issues in the area. How will this impact flooding? Also, what do you mean by water quality? Scott, could you answer these questions for us, please?
Yeah, sure. Acknowledging no flooding. You have good soils out here. And no known drainage issues. As far as treatment, we are, expanding some of the swales and creating shallow swales and shallowing up some of the deeper ditches. And the swale treatment is some of the best treatment for removing pollutants. So we're really just maintaining the existing drainage patterns that are there now.
And did you answer about the water quality?
Yeah, water quality would be primarily handled in the swales, swale treatment.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, hello, how will the new light at 125th be timed? I'm concerned about the extra wait time, and I think that it just got moved out of my way. I believe, Tom, could you tell us anything about the signal timing at 125th?
Sure. My guess is that we will accommodate the left turns with left turn signals, probably starting off with the flashing yellow arrows, all 4 approaches. So the left turns will go. It'll be a standard type where the left turns go and then the through movements go, stop that traffic, and then the side streets will go. very similar to that.
Okay, thank you. The next one is for Arturo. How will postmen be expected to deliver mail to the 37 properties along the north side of 102nd with curb and gutter, as they currently use a shoulder and won't be able to do this with curb and gutter?
Yeah, so I mean, they'll be continuing to deliver mail similarly to how they're doing now. And now they also have the option of that center left turn lane that we're adding as a refuge, right? But we think they'll continue to do it as they're doing now, stopping along 102nd and quickly delivering the mail.
Okay. Thank you. The next one is asking again about traffic studies at Ridge Road. And yes, we did do recent traffic studies for Ridge Road. And moving on to, why are we constantly trying to improve this road? I live here and only in peak times do we have traffic issues. Rob, could you answer that question?
Well, that's actually a very good question, because we have made various improvements over time out here. Back around 2017, I think it was, there was a small improvement to install a left turn lane at 119th Street. That project actually went from just west of Nina to 119th Street. And that was a combination of adding the left turn lane for safety reasons. That was the primary focus of that project, as well as making some drainage improvements on the south side of the roadway. Those were just interim improvements. Going back to the 2007 timeframe, when we were looking at the need for capacity improvements out here, that was the intent of that PER study that Arturo mentioned in the presentation. And that would have taken care of all future traffic volumes. Well, move forward a little bit after the cancellation of that project due to the public input and the cost. Doing other traffic studies now, updating all that data, shows that we really don't need that capacity improvement. So what we do need, though, is to improve that flow. And so doing this project, adding that two-way center turn lane, will improve that traffic flow in both directions, east and west, and help, as we've discussed here with a few other responses, questions that we've received, help with the access from the side streets onto the roadway as well. And ultimately, one of our primary goals, to improve safety for the vehicles, the drivers, and the pedestrians throughout the corridor. And it needs to be noted as well that the pedestrian improvements include the continuation of the sidewalk where there are current gaps. There is sidewalk on the north and south of the roadway, but there are significant gaps here and there. And by filling in those gaps, it will greatly improve the pedestrian access and the safety for pedestrians not having to cross 102nd Avenue to be able to continue their walk journey.
Next one's for Arturo. What is the anticipated turning radius of the proposed traffic circle compared to the sample circle that was shown? And is the anticipated circle to not have full curbs on the inside lane? They've got concerns for trailers.
So we don't have the signed documents for the roundabout that was installed in Hillsborough County, so I can't compare right now what the turning radius are for the two. Now we know that the two are two-lane roundabouts, and yes, like you mentioned, the outside lane is a through traffic with a right turn, right, for the traffic on 102nd. And the inside lane is a through traffic with this left turn movement. If they want to turn left onto Ridge Road, they're able to do that with the new two-lane roundabout.
Okay.
And just
Thank you.
Tone, if I could just add to that.
Go ahead, Rob.
The last part of that question was, are there full curbs on the inside? No, there are not. The curbs on the inside of that roundabout will be what we call a type E curb. And that means that it does not have a vertical face. It is a slanted face on that curve, so it does make it mountable with trailers. With the radius in that curve or in the roundabout, we do not anticipate vehicles with trailers, utility trailers, boat trailers, things of that nature, to have to use that and mount that center radius there. But it is possible to mount it if necessary.
So in the picture there, the black area in the circle, that's the mountable area that if needed, a larger vehicle like a fire truck or whatever could actually mount onto that to go around. Correct?
Yvonne, you want to address that?
Yeah, that is a truck apron. It's pretty flat, so vehicles can go over it to make the turn possible. That's the purpose of that strip.
Okay, thank you. And Tony, did you want to go ahead and take another couple raised hands?
Sure, Joan. Bonnie Agostino, you've been waiting a long time. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, it's not Bonnie, it's Jill Literati. I don't have a computer to do this with, but anyway, my worry is we live on Ashley Drive, and making a left-hand turn at any time out of Ashley Drive with the trail right there is a big problem. And I asked Kathy about this. I've talked to her several times, and she said she would, notify the engineers. But I don't understand, how are you going to stop the movement on the trail? Are we going to have a left turn signal there so that people out of Ashley Drive can turn? And how are you going to coordinate the trail with that if they don't have that light?
Tom, I'm going to ask you to answer this question.
Sure. Well, yeah, initially, when there's a vehicle there, they'll get detected. When somebody pushes that, and when there's a pedestrian on the trail and pushes a button, they'll get detected. So when the signal stops 102nd Avenue and allows the trail to go, we've done it a couple different ways. We can hold the left turn if there's a conflict, allow the pedestrians to cross, and then allow the left turns to go. We also have what we call leading pedestrian intervals, where we hold the left turn movement for the vehicles 5 or 10 seconds to allow the pedestrians to get out into the intersection, and then allow the vehicles to move with the expectation that they'll wait for the pedestrians or the bicyclists to clear the intersection before completing their movement.
Very dangerous.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't catch what your name really was.
So that was Jill. This is my computer, Bonnie. I also have a question. Is when you're coming west on 102 and you're trying to get into Ashley Drive, again, we have no turn signal. Even if the trail, if the light is on and the trail, have people walking across the trail, we still can't get into our road on Ashley Drive. Is there going to be a left turn signal there? We can't get in, we can't get out.
Will there be a left-hand signal if you're coming westbound?
See in the graphic there that there's a left turn, there's a westbound left turn lane that we're going to develop as part of this. And the whole idea of incorporating this intersection with the trail for the signal is just to provide protection for that movement. So yes, there will be a left turn phase provided for westbound traffic.
When you say phase, you're saying just the lane. You're not saying there's going to be a signal.
There will be a signal.
There will be a left turn signal to get into Ashley Drive.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And I still don't know how it's going to work if you're coming out of Ashley Drive. We almost get killed every time we try to take a left out of Ashley Drive. Is there going to be an actual turn signal there?
So this will be a traditional signal, and the trail crossing will act as the west side of that intersection. So just like any other intersection that has a pedestrian crossing, it'll be set up the same way. So the traffic movements will also have signal control with this configuration.
So when we come out now, you almost kill yourself trying to get out now and not try to run over somebody. So I hope there'll be some provisions for that.
It sounds like there will be. there will be a traffic signal at Ashley, so
Yeah.
you'll be able to. All the traffic that's on 102nd will be stopped, so that you'll be able to get out. Now,
Take
if
a
somebody is on the trail, they'll have to pass, and then you can make your left.
Okay.
Thank
Hopefully they'll stop.
Thanks, Bonnie and Jill. Let's see. We'll take one more, and then we'll go back to the Q&As. Tammy Swanson.
Hello.
Hi, Tammy.
Swenson.
Well, that's actually Bill, but close enough.
Okay. Hi, Bill.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
2 questions quickly. Who did this drainage survey? Because I lived here for 10 years and through all these storms and all the water and all that, not the slightest problem whatsoever. But I feel like if you put these curbs in, the only place the water's going to go is right down my driveway into my house. So I don't understand. Leave the curbs out, forget the drainage, maybe work on a roundabout or something, but I don't know how you're going to put a roundabout and then 100 yards up the road, you're going to put a turn signal light that's going to be every time someone comes out of Ashley, it's going to trip the light. That traffic's going to be backed up to all the way up to Seminole Boulevard. I don't think you guys. I know for sure that some of your people don't do a lot of on-site engineering, because a couple of years ago when you guys were talking about making all these improvements, you were going to cut every tree down on the north side of 102nd so you could put a 15 or 12-foot highway for e-bikes and golf carts and all these crazy kids that drive down these sidewalks. Right now, they're almost killing us. So I think you need to really do a little bit more on-site engineering instead of, from a book and a overhead what you have there. Because when we spoke to a woman that was in charge of that, she goes, we asked her if she had ever been down there to survey it before she made all these recommendations, and she said, no, I've never been down there. So she got the overview and saw all the trees there and said, I didn't notice that. So I think you guys need, before you do any more work on this, you need to really bring your team out here and walk around instead of just doing it from Google Maps and whatever else other tools you use. But I think it would be helpful. And there's no traffic issues, except for I asked the question before about the traffic issues at peak times. Yes, there's any road at peak time has traffic issues. I mean, you change the whole setting because at peak times things are bad. It's not like that all the time. Okay. I've been here 10 years. I don't have problems. Yeah. I have problems with the sidewalks that you wanting to make a speedway out of them. I don't understand that at all. And I thought in Pinellas County it was against the law to ride a bicycle or anything on a sidewalk.
No.
That was my understanding.
No. Okay.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comment. We got a whole lot of questions here. Joan, do you want to go back to the Q&A?
Well, I was wondering if Rob could first talk about the drainage study that we're doing, and that, yes, we have been out to the site to look at things.
I'd be glad to. Yes, we have been out to the site a number of times. Our project manager has been out there. Our senior engineer, Arturo, has been out there. I have been out there myself. We've been out there as a team and individually to look at it. I've driven on this roadway for years. I've been here since 2001, so I'm well familiar with the roadway, the condition of it. Our engineers have done a lot of data collection out there. To get that data, they have to go out to the site. So we have been out there, and we appreciate the concern. We really do. And if you receive that type of response from one of our staff, I apologize for that. But we have been out there, and we are well aware of what's going on. Now, relative to the drainage, I understand how you might be concerned with the water running down your driveway because now it's flowing in a curb. But the way that the roadway is structured, the way that it is sloped and graded in each direction, takes care of that. And also your driveway will actually raise up a bit from the roadway before as it goes into your property. So as that happens, the drainage will not flow down your driveway. It'll stay in that curb lane until it exits through either a flume, which is an opening in the curb to let it flow into the swale that's going to be behind it, or into a drainage inlet like we see on a lot of our streets where the water flows into the pipe through that curb inlet. So it's not going to change the drainage significantly on this project at all. It's going to still be captured within the curb, within the swales and ditches, and within the pipes and inlets that will be provided through this design.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. Going to move on to the typed questions. How will you prevent the center two-way lane from becoming a passing lane? And Rob, I'm going to ask you to answer that one.
Well, we don't prevent it because people will do what they do behind a car. Okay, so we have to first accept that and admit that. However, from a safety perspective and from a daily perspective, from what we see, that typically doesn't happen. You may have the one-off where the driver does do that, that is impatient, but we don't have cars racing down the roadway using that center two-way turn lane on a typical basis at all. And if we do see that, if you do see that in your experience as you live and travel on this corridor, the first thing to do is to call the sheriff's department and also call our traffic department and give them that information. And we can set up additional patrols through our sheriff's department. We do that quite frequently on various roadways where we have those experiences or where we get calls from residents with various issues. We will let the sheriff's department know that, and they will establish additional patrols for that to help prevent it.
Thank you, Rob.
Yes.
Moving on, the next question is pretty lengthy. It talks about traffic. So Tom, I'm going to ask you to comment on this one. When was the last traffic study done for the amount of cars going through this section? I live off of 102nd and travel this section of 102nd between 113th and the trail, and it can take 10 minutes at heavy traffic time to get from Seminole to the trail. Do you really think there's going to be a lot less traffic accidents with cars trying to approach and leave the roundabout? People make illegal turns all the time and U-turns. How is this going to work? Couldn't most of the traffic going south on Ridge go to 113th at 110th to avoid the illegal turns, and same going to the north, not having any turns at Ridge Road?
Yep. No, good question. Let me start by saying that the most recent traffic study was the counts and the data were probably collected within the past 12 to 15 months as we were analyzing what we were going to do at each of the intersections here. Regarding Ridge Road, you are correct. Right now, if somebody's north of 102nd and they want to get to 113th, the closest intersection to do that is at 110th. That's an unsignalized location, 110th and 113th. We've had some safety concerns there that we're trying to address. So what this does is to be able to open up what we've got closed right now at Ridge Road. And so, if we weren't to do anything and leave this closed and require, no turns from Ridge Road on 102nd and no left turns, we'd have to beef that up quite a bit because as Arturo showed in his presentation, we know there's illegal movements going on. We've got people that are driving over that median. It's not very high. We've got people driving over our flex posts. We've got people making illegal U-turns through the left turns. So, the solution that we've come up with, allows that. As Arturo mentioned, the approach speeds to Ridge Road should be much lower with the roundabout. That's what we've seen with roundabouts in general. So, we know that the speeds are going to be slower. Slower speeds should increase the safety. It should increase the opportunities for people to get into the flow of traffic, work their way around the roundabout, and make whatever movement that they're intending to make. So, we do see this as a safety improvement and allows the traffic on Ridge Road to access 113th if they want to and do it safely from a traffic signal.
Thank you, Tom. The next one is requesting to see the diagram where Thurston Grove is again. But okay, so Thurston's Grove is all the way on the right side of the road there. And that's where you've got the two westbound lanes coming out of the roundabout. One goes through, the other one becomes a right turn that turns onto Thurston Groves Boulevard. Is that correct, Arturo?
Yeah, so this is the point where the 4 lanes go back to that 3-lane typical section throughout the project. So from the roundabout, one is a right turn only into Thurston Groves Boulevard, and then the other 2 are through, keeping that center left turn lane throughout.
Okay, thank you. The next one is no previous drainage problems have existed, so why add curb and gutter? Scott, will you answer the drainage question?
Yeah, this really is to accommodate, the roadway improvements. It's, really the drainage is set to accommodate the roadway template that's already been approved.
Okay. So it's not just the existing drainage, it's anything that's with the additional lane.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Westbound traffic jockeys to get to the outside lane approaching westbound before 113th Street and cuts into the single lane, causing daily near misses. How is this going to be addressed? And Rob, I'm going to ask you to answer this. I mean, this is what's happening now, and how will our design correct that?
Well, let me digest that question just a little bit. What we see is 2 things happening for westbound traffic that is east of 113th Street, approaching 113th Street in the westbound direction. 2 things are occurring there. One, you have folks that want to continue going westbound on 102nd Avenue. And so they're going to want to get into that center lane, the inside through lane, so that they can continue through as they go by Ridge Road, because that outside lane is a drop lane for Ridge Road. It does not continue through that intersection like it will with the 2-lane roundabout. So the 2 things that are happening are, you've either got people that are overloading that inside lane because they want to go straight through and they know that outside lane terminates at Ridge, or they're trying to get into that outside lane to then speed past the traffic that is lined up, queued up in the inside lane there. And then they're causing a problem when they try to then all of a sudden duck into a small gap so that they can go past Ridge Road in that inside lane. That's a significant safety problem that the 2-lane roundabout will actually eliminate, because that lane, that outside lane, no longer will drop at Ridge Road. It will continue through that roundabout, so that as all of that traffic starts to flush out and get through Ridge Road, it'll start creating gaps to where they can then merge much easier and much safer into that through lane as the right lane, outside lane, then terminates at Thurston Groves. And you might ask yourself, aren't you creating the same situation at Thurston Groves? No, we're not, because the major movement there is wanting to either continue through at Ridge or turn right at Ridge. So we're addressing that traffic volume and those traffic movements through that roundabout and allowing the space between the roundabout and Thurston Groves for that traffic to then space itself out and then merge together into that one through lane that continues westbound.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you for the additional talk about Thurston Groves. Okay, the next question is about some drainage, so I'm going to pass it to Scott. I'm concerned about removal of much needed water drainage in order to widen southbound sidewalk to 8 feet. That sidewalk is always pretty empty, only a few people at a time, and does not need expansion. Can you discuss the precise narrowing of the current water drainage scale, and why do you think we need or want this?
Yeah, appreciate it, Joan. The sidewalk is really for pedestrian safety, and overall, the entire project limits, we're adding more volume than is currently out there. So we don't anticipate any creating any drainage issues. We're maintaining the swales on the south side and throughout for the most part. Yvonne, I don't know if you have anything additional to add to that.
No, you got that right, Scott.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Next question is, would it be possible to add eastbound only red lights at 118th Street North and 119th Street North that syncs with the Pinellas Trail light? That way, the traffic on 102nd would stop immediately, allowing exiting traffic from the neighborhoods to get into the flow of 102nd traffic headed east. And I guess that's something that we could take a look at. But Tom, do you want to talk a little bit about, is it possible to time those lights?
Well, yeah, I mean, when we rebuild this one and we add the one at 125th, we will be able to synchronize those signals. I think this question is asking, is it possible to do something similar at 119th and 118th? And without building full signals, we really don't have any sort of technology that allows us to just stop one direction of traffic at an intersection like that. It would really create a lot more problems than it would solve. But, with the traffic stopped at the trail, that should allow, certainly if you're on the north side, for you to get into that center turn lane that Rob was talking about earlier, and at least stage in there or be able to move with the flow of traffic eastbound and sort of merge in gradually. So I think a combination of all of this will create the gaps in the westbound traffic at those two locations when traffic is stopped at the trail, and would probably serve the same purpose that they're looking for.
Thank you very much. Tony, how about if we go back to hands? You want to see if Catherine is able to speak now?
Okay. Catherine, I'm going to unmute you and you can ask your question. If you have to unmute yourself first, though. You're unmuted on our end, Catherine.
Okay. Well, maybe, Catherine, you can type your question in because we're not hearing you. So I apologize about that. And also for anybody, any questions that we don't get to, or any questions that you may have after this meeting, you can still write in on our website. So, Tony, how about if you pick another hand, raised hand?
Sure. Heather Johnson, you're up, and you can ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm a resident here, and I just want to start off with saying that I am proactive of the whole roundabout. It's very aggressive and stressful turning through the intersection. So I'm happy about that. The Ashley Drive, I do understand the concern because when you make a left out heading north going west, when the light is green and the pedestrians are going, or even if it stops, it's hard to make the left out because the pedestrians don't seem to stop at that intersection. So that's where the left turn concern is kind of at, is will they be able to stop even the pedestrians for us to make a left turn?
Okay. Tom, you want to answer?
And I'd say we'll take a look at that. Traditionally, what we would do is, like I said, when we stop the traffic on 102nd, we will allow the pedestrians to get started before any other traffic movements are allowed to go, to give them a chance to get out into the intersection and be seen. And then we would release the northbound traffic from Ashley, with the expectation that, at some point there would be a gap in traffic while you guys still have the green to be able to complete your movement. If that proves to be problematic, there are other things we can do to the signal where, yes, we'll allow the pedestrians to go, stop them completely, and then allow the northbound to go and then return back to 102nd Avenue. So we do have options if that proves to be problematic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Heather. Let's take one more.
And first, I wanted to mention, Joan, that if anybody is on Zoom and they're not able to unmute themselves or ask a question, you can call in on these numbers that are on the screen. You may want to take a cell phone picture of that.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Laura Tendler, I'm going to unmute you, and you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm concerned about the way the responses have been regarding the water drainage. Have any water drainage and flooding surveys taken place following our most recent hurricanes? We're getting a lot stronger hurricanes with more water. It brought in flooding this past year that we hadn't had before. And the widening of both the roadways and the sidewalks, especially on the southbound side, and then the decrease of the way the swales are, I don't see how water's not going to flow back onto the properties on the southbound side and other areas, particularly also the ones with the curbs after you do this. When's the last water survey that was done?
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Again, I'm not aware of any flooding that occurred last summer with the hurricanes on this corridor. Have you observed any during that?
There was water in properties after Milton.
Okay. Do you have photos of that you could share with us?
So you haven't done a water survey after the storms, after the most recent storms?
I've driven it. I didn't get to this particular corridor for Milton, but I'm happy to, take any information that you have or that the county has in their complaint database. And
I would like for that to be done before moving forward with the increase of the sidewalks and the amount of roadway increasing and decreasing of the soil that's going to have to be removed and the swales and all of our natural drainage that we currently have that's aiding our community not having flooding problems right now.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we need a more current and a better water survey.
And Joan, if I can add to Scott's response there, we have done a drainage study as a part of this project throughout the corridor. That drainage study takes a look at where that water's coming from, where that water goes, and how it gets there. So that is how and why the drainage is set up the way that it is, with both using those curbs that we're putting in, but using both open swales and the pipes that we're putting in underground. So the swales will help with the water quality as well as some of the water quantity, because it has more room within those swales and ditches to stage up before it gets into the pipe or before it percolates, what we call it, sinking into the ground below. So we do know where that water goes. We know how it gets there. Now, we also work with our stormwater operations group, and that keeps a database of flooding complaints, whether the flooding is on the roadway or whether it's off the roadway into properties, or if it's even a worse situation where it floods out houses. So they keep that database. They have all that information from historical records. We do get with them and we look at what those problems are and we research all of that. And is that a function of this project, or is that a function of the overall drainage way that may deal with where how the drainage gets into the system downstream from here? There could be problems downstream that this project cannot address, but a future drainage improvement may need to address that. But as we look at at the data that we have collected on this particular project, we don't have flooding issues in this area or even around this area. That was evident from all the data that we have. Now, going back to these two storms that we had last year, those were one-offs. I mean, there was just
I don't know if you can't guarantee that they're one-offs, and you're changing the entire roadway system here. It will decrease drainage.
From the amount of water that we received at one time from those storms, those were well over. One of the things that we plan for is sort of the extreme, the 100-year flood. You hear that from the meteorologists all the time, and we take a look at that as one of the extremes. That storm that we had with Helene and Milton, those were well beyond that 100-year storm with the amount of water that fell all at once. And with Milton, it was even exacerbated more because with Helene, all the rain we got there saturated the ground. And so there was really no way for that water to fall on any surface and then dissipate into the ground because it was so full of water already. So that's what I mean by the one-off. Now we can't plan for every hurricane that comes through here. We plan for the normal storm events, which is the 10-year, the 25-year, the 50-year, and the 100-year. And we design the systems to maintain those that quantity of water that falls through those storm events and maintain those within the pipe and or ditch section that we design. So that's how these things get designed, and that's what we maintain. Now, anything over and above that, then we would need to look at additional drainage improvements. And again, typically, those additional drainage improvements would need to occur downstream, where that water goes, and then it ultimately empties into one of the bayous, one of the major drainage channels, or into ultimately the Gulf or the bay.
How will you be? Can you provide our community more specifics and graphs on the way you're going to be changing the swales and the drainage for this entire construction, the length of this construction area, and provide the water surveys so we can review them openly, perhaps even have another meeting where flooding and water drainage specifically was discussed amongst more members of the community?
We would be glad to. We could show you the plans as we continue that development. We can show you what that drainage system is going to look like with the project and how it's going to go from swales to pipes and inlets and then actually exit through those systems into the existing drainage ways outside of this project area.
I think that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
If you would kindly call our project manager, you can set up a meeting with her, and you can come into our office, and we'll be more than happy to show you the plans.
Again, thank you very much.
Tony, should we go back to the written questions again?
Yeah, I would say let's go back to the written questions, Joan. We have quite a few.
The next question is there is already backups beyond the turn lane going north on 113th. Is the turn lane going to be extended? Tara, maybe you can show that one slide again from the roundabout to 113th. Is that northbound?
So I'm guessing you're talking about on 113th Street, left turn lane.
It says there's already backups beyond the turn lane going north on 113th. So I think it's on 102nd, that northbound turn lane.
Got it. Yeah, and Pavan and his team are looking at that, and we're making sure that we're meeting the capacity for this intersection and extending this turn left lane for what's needed.
Okay. So this what percent plans are we at again? Did you say 60%?
Yeah, we've completed 60% for the design.
Okay, so we still have some, and this graphic isn't to any kind of scale yet, correct?
Yeah, not to scale.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, well, we'll move on then. What about the log jam that builds up of traffic at the junction of 102nd and 113th? Going westbound to the beaches, the traffic has to merge into one lane, causing daily conflicts. This junction has become dangerous for motorists going west. Why don't you improve the traffic flow at this junction? And Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you already address the traffic? Will it actually go beyond the roundabout? Actually, I think Rob mentioned that.
Rob had talked about that, and
Okay.
we understand that there are some improvements that we need to look at east of 113th Street. That's just not part of this particular project, but we are aware that there are some things to do and to look at in that area.
Okay, thank you. Next one is just a comment. The curbing is a terrible idea. How about spending money on hurricane repairs in our parks and underserved areas? Thank you for your comment. Going on to, can there be a right turn lane going eastbound on 102nd Avenue to southbound 13th Avenue? It's busy during rush hour traffic. And I don't know exactly where this is. Do you think that they meant 113th Avenue?
I think so.
113th.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob?
Well, yeah, I think they meant 113th in that westbound direction, turning south onto 113th. That is something that the traffic analysis did not show as being necessary, but we can certainly go back and look at that again to make sure that a separate dedicated right turn lane is not needed. We'll take a look at that.
Thank you. Next one is, it appears that allowing additional bi-directional two-way traffic at Ridge Road will add additional backup at intersections to the east and west of the roundabout from more Ridge Road traffic access. And I think that we've already addressed that. We included the additional traffic that we anticipate getting from Ridge Road. Is that correct, Arturo?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Previously, a light at 119th was mentioned. Why the change to 125th? Arturo?
119th. So I think this was actually mentioned as part of a question, right? Whether we would be looking at adding lights at 118 and 119th. We are not with this project. That's just something that we can consider, I think Tom said, but it's just something of how many lights can we have throughout the corridor without stopping traffic throughout, right? So with the traffic study that we've done, we believe this is the best solution for the corridor.
Okay. And there's also rules on how close signals can be to each other as well.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. It looks like the ditches will remain on the north side of 102nd between 125th and Hazel. Scott, could you confirm if the ditches are remaining? It says north side between 125th and Hazel.
Let's see, can you go to that on the graphics?
Looks.
Yep.
They are remaining, Scott.
Yeah. They're pretty much remaining through most of the project limits.
They're remaining. Okay. Thank you. And Bill, I'm sorry I'm not entertaining your questions. I apologize. Go ahead and put your questions in this chat here and we will answer them. You can also talk with the project manager, Kathy Fernandez, to answer questions. Next one is, how do you take north-south traffic counts at the roundabout into consideration? The ability to continue north-south was eliminated years ago. So, Arturo, how did we determine north-south traffic?
Pavan, and maybe Pavan can talk a little better through that traffic study that we did and how we included some of those numbers into what we're showing as traffic at this intersection.
Yeah, we did accounted the traffic counts we're estimating the traffic going south and north at each leg of the intersection. And we plug that into our design software to get the north-south movement, how the delay is going to happen. So the answer to your question, the north-south movements were accounted each leg of the intersection.
Thank you. If you're adding a light to 125th for pedestrians, what will happen to the pedestrian crossing only a few hundred feet away in front of Walsingham Park? And Tom, that pedestrian crossing for Walsingham Park is staying, correct?
It is staying, and I'll add that, that's an RFB, so that's activated on demand. It's the ones that flash yellow, and you're only required to stop until the pedestrian or bicyclist has cleared your lane.
Okay, thank you. And Bill mentions again that he's taken a screenshot of his questions, and he'll be forwarding them on to the news media. The next one is, I live in the neighborhood off of Hazel Street and 102nd Avenue. Won't it be difficult pulling out of Hazel Street onto 102nd Avenue due to the projected street light at 125th? Seems like traffic will be at a standstill. And I don't know who Arturo, you want to answer that?
Sure. Well, not from the traffic studies that we've seen. We believe we think there should be movement through that intersection. And again, 125th will be correlated to the trail crossing and 113th Street. So we're hoping now correlating those three lights, there'll be movement throughout the corridor that's better than what you have now.
Okay. Thank you. Will the straightening of the trail help with the cyclists running the red light north and south? Tom?
That's a good question. I mean, what we've seen with this trail crossing and other trail crossings is, even though we've provided a signal here to make it a safe crossing, bicyclists tend to be a little bit impatient, and if they get a gap in traffic and they can make it, even if they've pushed the button, they'll go ahead and do that. We do hope that, they are stopping and at least making sure that it's safe to cross, that they're not just pulling out into traffic. We haven't seen any traffic crashes involving bicyclists here, related to that type of activity, but we are aware that, even though we've provided, the safety device to get across the street, that they don't always take advantage of that.
Okay. Thank you. The next couple ones are comments. Walsingham Park is not accessed at 125th. Yes. And why is so much attention being given to pedestrians at the expense of smooth traffic flow? I hardly see the numbers of pedestrians to justify these changes, especially at 125th. Great efforts were made to enable pedestrian access across the recent updates to the traffic junctions of 102nd and 113th. But very few pedestrians use this part of the road, a wasteful improvement. So we will take that into consideration. Moving on to, would a light be added at Ridge Road to cross over 102nd? And Arturo answered that question when he went over his talk at the beginning, that the light was looked at, but this is the chosen intersection control.
Yeah, and again, the signal at this intersection does not meet the requirements because the signal is so close to 113th Street.
Okay, thank you. Next one is follow-up to my first question. The traffic volume the traffic volume in 2007, and many of the property owners are much different now. The 5-lane model seems like it would make much more sense for current conditions. And Rob, maybe you can answer that about the volume. Has it really changed much?
Yeah, no, actually, and ironically, in this area, the traffic volumes have actually decreased from what we see from the traffic studies that were performed for the preliminary engineering report in 2006 actually 2004 through 2007, and then going to today. We see, I don't remember the percentage drop, but we did see a drop in traffic volumes through this section, to where what we really need is to improve the flow of traffic, not to provide for quantity of traffic. So we don't need the additional lanes.
Thank you. And a very disappointing response to the comment call and needed for a bridge at the Pinellas Trail. Not a very satisfactory explanation. And, David, I'm sorry that it didn't answer your question, but maybe Kathy can expand upon it with you.
Hey, Joan, if you wouldn't mind, if we could bring up that area again, and just
Okay.
I'll try to add to it and see if I can't clarify some of this.
Okay.
So with the trail overpass, if you can imagine, it's got to be up over the road, and therefore, at that height, it's got to find a landing place. And to meet, the ADA requirements, that has to be at a certain slope. So, from the edge of where it's got to maintain its height above the roadway, that's got to start sloping down, and it's got to be a gradual slope so that anybody with mobility issues can get up and down without too much effort. So where it would land back on the trail is much farther north and south than where we're showing it now. In addition to that, you still have to provide for an at-grade crossing of 102nd right at the trail. Because you're going to have people walking east and west along 102nd or biking that want to cross at this location, and it's unreasonable to expect them to walk north and south on the trail only to walk up and over and back down. So we did take a look at it, but for a variety of reasons, we don't think that's the best solution. And what we've come up with, tying it into the intersection, we do think will provide the safety and the accessibility that's going to be required. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit.
Thank you. The roundabout merging into one lane will cause spacing issues between cars, and in making turning that hard for the north side residents between the Pinellas Trail and 125th. Hard to make an eastbound turn. Has any thought been put into the hardship that we residents already have now, and how much this will make things more difficult? Rob, could you answer?
Sure. Well, let me read that question one more time. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Okay, so the question, as I understand it, is looking at the westbound movement as the second through lane, the outside lane, drops off into a right turn lane at Thurston Groves. That's what's happening now at Ridge Road. But you've got a lot of other movements that are happening at Ridge Road, and a lot of people that want to make that right turn and continue through. As those vehicles, the quantity of vehicles go through that roundabout in the westbound direction, that distance from the roundabout at Ridge to Thurston Groves is great enough that it gives the cars time and space to thin out, basically, to develop gaps between each other, so that outside lane, if they want to get in and get into that inside lane and continue westbound, they can safely do that. So that it provides more space from 113th Street so that it does not impact that intersection, but gives them adequate time and space to merge to continue that westbound movement.
Thank you, Rob. And Pavan, will there be any bicycle lanes?
There are no separate bicycle lanes. The wider sidewalk on the south side. There are no bicycle lanes on the roadway. The proposed 8-foot sidewalk will act like a multi-use path for both pedestrians and the sidewalks on the south side.
Thank you. And if Ashley Drive gets a green light, will that also be green for the trail? Turning west from Ashley Drive would create a conflict. And I think that Tom addressed that with the leading pedestrian interval, that they would have the right first. Tom?
That's correct. And I also mentioned that if it does become a problem, we have other options with the signal phasing to separate that out and make sure that the northbound left turns will get sufficient green time to make their movement.
Okay, thank you. Another comment here is I'll be interested to see if any suggestions from the public actually make their way to the final plan. So thank you for that. And Tony, do you want to take a few more hands?
Sure. Jessica Perez, Jessica Perez, you've been waiting quite a while. I have just unmuted you. And if you unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Hi. Okay, so I travel on 102nd going east and west at peak times. And my thing is, how will a traffic light at 125th aid with traffic flow if there's so much traffic going westbound and eastbound? And from 131st alone, like, don't you think that will cause a lot of backup going both ways? Possibly more backup and possibly into 125th. If your goal is to assist pedestrians, why not just add more flashing pedestrian crossings along 102nd? Possibly like a sidewalk from the park to like 131st on the north side instead of it just being on the south side. Because I mean, there's a lot of families, kids on bikes that have to needlessly cross 102nd only to get back on the north side at 131st. You know, I think that's going to back up a lot.
Okay. Rob, do you want to address?
Sure. And that's a very, very good and valid observation. And thank you for the question. The traffic signals, honestly, do not necessarily help traffic flow to keep progressing. Okay. So when we need to add a traffic signal to allow traffic in all four directions, north, south, and east and west, to operate through that intersection, we look at the timing of that signal so that we can continue the progression of vehicles in the major movement, which in this case is in the east-west direction. So we will time that particular signal to provide as much green time as we can to 102nd Avenue in both directions, but then apply the green signal to allow north-south traffic on 125th to move as it needs to make its left turn movements or to continue in north and south across 102nd Avenue. So yes, that's a good observation. And what we do is look at the timing of the signal to address that traffic flow.
Okay. But what if it doesn't work? What if it starts to back up consistently and then, you know, everything going eastbound starts to back up and block us all into our houses, and then we can't use that middle lane to make a left turn to go eastbound? What then?
We would continue to look at that signal timing and make adjustments as needed. Now, you know, looking at what these improvements are going to provide, if you're on, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the map on my other screen. If you're on the south side of 102nd Avenue and you're looking to come out of those side streets or the driveways and head in the eastbound direction, if based on the traffic volumes, I don't think you're going to run into this, but if you have traffic stopped in front of your driveway or your side street, you know, like we have anywhere else within the county, within the country, really, vehicles will stop and let you out. Some won't, most will, and then you can get out when that light does turn green and then continue with your movement. So looking at how traffic typically flows, we calculate, or don't calculate that, but we factor that into our decisions on how to program the traffic signals, how to time them so that those instances can resolve themselves.
Okay. And if, for instance, this change happens and somebody hasn't come out with enough time, because that can happen, and the timing doesn't get changed, who do we call to make the complaint so that the issue can be addressed?
You call Tom. You would call our traffic engineering department.
All right, Tom. So I'll be looking out for you.
Thank you, Jessica.
I don't want.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were talking. But we still have quite a few questions, and we have a few raised hands. So I'm going to move on to Aaron Smith. Aaron, I have unmuted you, and if you unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Hey, good evening. I live directly on 102nd Avenue, in between Hazel and 125th Street. And I was just curious, as far as the timing in the phases of this project, are there going to be extended periods of time where we'll be driving through, primarily dirt roads and construction paths, or will this be phased where we'll always have some sort of paved access?
Okay. Toro, can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, we're at the 60% design. We're going to go back, take some of the input that we've received. We're going to continue through the design. And let me bring up the schedule real quick. So we are looking, based on where we go from here, to complete the design in the spring of 2026. Once we start construction, and we're looking again at early 2027, we're going to be about a year in construction. Once we get into that, we'll have a much better idea. We'll communicate directly with whoever's on 102nd that's going to be directly impacted by this. So you know what's coming, and the contractor will work with you. Right now, we're anticipating that one lane will stay closed. So one lane, whether that's eastbound on 102nd or westbound on 102nd, will be open once at a time, while the other lane is being constructed.
Well, let me expand on that, please. The plans that we're developing will have what we call a maintenance of traffic plan set. So that will address how traffic actually flows across the corridor and accesses side streets. Because we're adding a center turn lane, the design will maintain traffic in both directions in their individual lanes as we widen one side or the other as necessary. And that's one thing that Pavan's group is taking a look at as they go through that design, to make sure that traffic flows in both directions at all times. Now, given that, there may be times when one direction is closed for a certain period of time, typically, minutes throughout the day, for the contractor to do something in particular. And if there is a particular issue that arises where we need to close one direction for a day or 2 days or longer, we will certainly give all the residents here and the traveling public a lot of notice of that type of instance, and we will set up a specific detour route to handle that type of condition. I think your other question was about traveling on dirt roads for any period of time. No, we don't allow that in our designs. So what we do, if we have to divert traffic along a temporary portion of the constructed roadway, we require that temporary traffic lane to be paved. So it won't be your perfect pavement, but it will be paved. It will be a hard surface.
Thank you. Nancy Haig, I'm going to unmute you, and you can ask your question. Unmute yourself, please.
Hi, good evening. This is Rich. We live on Hazel Street, and one of the concerns I have about the third lane is people coming on the northbound side out of Hazel Street trying to go eastbound on that third lane there. You have two sets of opposing traffic, people coming on 121st and going west. Literally, there's a one house difference between the entrance to Hazel Street and 121st, and also people preparing on 102nd, getting ready to turn left into Windtree Boulevard, which is one house between Hazel Street and Windtree. I was wondering what can be done in that third lane, because it's such a congested area, to prevent, head-on collisions.
Okay. Arturo?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat some of that?
Sure. He lives off of Hazel, and you can see how you've got that center turn lane. You also have two streets on the south side that also could be turning out at the same time. How will you prevent cars from mixing in that two-way turn lane?
Sure, and that's going to be directed, as a regular center left turn lane, right? I mean, traffic is going to vary throughout. We believe this is an improvement from what you have now. So regardless whether you're coming out of Hazel and making a left onto Hazel or making a left onto Windtree, we believe this modification will be an improvement for you, and you get that access there, so you don't have to stop traffic on 102nd when you're in this median.
Well, okay, I understand your point, Arturo, but my concern is that if a car pulls out of Hazel Street and there's no room then in that turn lane for somebody getting ready to turn westbound on 102nd into Windtree. Right now, when the situation, unfortunately, and I know the sheriffs are working on it, but you have people running over down the side around cars that are trying to turn, left-hand turn, either onto Windtree going eastbound, or if they're people trying to go around cars turning left and northbound onto Hazel. So I guess the question is, what can be done to help make it safer for everybody?
Sure. We can probably go back and take another look at this segment here to see if there's a conflict with somebody pulling out that is, making that left turn south and also turning onto Hazel at the same time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
That'd be good.
Adding to this, these side streets are controlled by a stop sign. It's gonna more or less operate whatever it is operating currently as.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Tony?
Okay, let's go to Alex Alfred. Alex, you are unmuted. If you unmute yourself, you can speak.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I am not sold on a roundabout at Ridge Road, and I'm wondering, as an alternative, if you keep the proposed expansion to make two westbound lanes on 102nd, so you remove the to Thurston Groves, so you remove the requirement to turn north onto Ridge Road. You give cars plenty of time to adjust, and anybody who wants to turn south onto Ridge Road from 102nd can do that. And then the 102nd compresses down into one lane at Thurston Groves after Ridge Road.
I think I understand what you're proposing, but what we're seeing, actually, let me go back to personal experience. Arturo and I met out there with the property owners on the northeast corner of 102nd and Ridge Road, Friday, 2 weeks ago, maybe. And it was during the rush hour. It was close to 5 o'clock. And we witnessed a number of people that did two things. One, they were headed westbound, and they would go around that existing concrete traffic divider and make a U-turn so that they could turn south onto Ridge Road. And I think that's one of the things that you're pointing at as making it possible to do, but at the intersection and do it with a left turn lane appropriately. But what we also saw were a lot of vehicles. We were there for 30 minutes. And we had at least 5 instances where vehicles were traveling south on Ridge Road, and they came into the intersection and went around that concrete traffic divider to then go south on Ridge Road or to go east on 102nd Avenue. We had vehicles that were doing both of those types of movements. So part of the issue here is that we're seeing that drivers want to go through on Ridge Road. And so to safely accommodate that, it was either the traffic light or a roundabout. And the roundabout is the safest movement that we can, or the safest design that we can provide and not have an impact on 113th Street, nor have create a situation where we would have to ignore basically our design requirements. So that's really how we got to this roundabout, was to allow all the traffic movements that want to be made and that need to be made at that particular intersection, and to be made as safely as possible.
I understand what you're saying, but I want to travel unobstructed along 102nd and not have to deal with a roundabout. So I appreciate trying to incorporate a turn on Ridge Road that, as I understand, has not existed for some time.
Right.
But I disagree that a roundabout and inconveniencing the folks on 102nd to accommodate the people who are, quite frankly, ignoring the traffic laws on Ridge Road is the appropriate solution. Well, I understand your position. I just wanted to make my comment.
Yeah, and if I can add, we're addressing that issue from local residents that are using Ridge Road, but that becomes an issue for people that are using 102nd as a through, because they are the unintended people that get into accidents, right? With these people that are trying to make the left turn from Ridge Road. So we're trying to solve the problem for everybody. I understand you want to go clear as much as you can, but we're trying to solve this issue that we're seeing here.
Thank you, Alex. George Perez, I'm going to unmute you, and you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
They're just skipped it. They're not coming back to you. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. I live on the corner of Nina and 102nd, and I want to second on the concern over the traffic light on 125th. And based on your guys' comments, Jessica asked if, once it's done, pretty much you guys said at that point, it's too late. You guys just have to work on the timing of the light. But I would caution to reconsider before we do something that's too late. That can possibly cause way more traffic backup on that road, because if traffic starts to back up really far, which at peak times on 102nd, I mean, even now sometimes traffic backs up, pretty significantly on that road. It's mostly from people trying to make lefts. So I understand that center turn lane will alleviate some of that traffic. But before you do something that possibly can cause permanent backup on that road, I would caution to reconsider that, because then it's going to make it extremely difficult for us to get out of our home. As it is, it's difficult at peak times to get out of my house sometimes. So I think before that traffic light gets put in, I would really caution to reconsider maybe some of those other options of other pedestrian crossways or something like that. That is the one thing that really worries me about this whole thing, is that light really backing up traffic throughout the road, and then it being an irreversible, quote unquote, improvement on the road. You know what I mean? That's my biggest concern with the whole thing.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. We understand, George, and we will take a look at it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Joan, at this point, we're a solid 2 hours. I'm sorry.
Can I take one moment now?
Yeah, yes, Anonymous, is this you?
Yes, this is
sure.
Missy and Lee.
Okay,
sure.
So
as you alluded to here, you went out to that corner property by the proposed roundabout, and you seen where people were doing illegal U-turns. I don't think that you guys have lived here long enough to realize how much traffic used to go on Old Ridge Road. When you open it up to where you can flow straight through all the way to 86 through that roundabout, you're going to create such congestion that I'm going to love it, because it's actually going to make it easier for us to get out of our streets up here. And then the other thing was the middle divider that you put in as an improvement on 119th, that actually made it worse, because now when people turn in on 119th to go into the property, before people used to be able to go out, but now they can't go out because people use the middle divider to pass. And like you said, you can call the police or, have them, sit there. When they sit there, they don't do it. So unless you're going to have a police officer sit there where the bicycle parking lot is, then it's going to be useless. We're just going to be, everybody on 119th, I feel for those people because I see them every day. And I mean, I don't know how you're thinking that the middle divider is going to do anything, because actually, since you put the middle divider in at 119th, it made everything way worse.
Nobody trusts going into the middle lane because you have those people that pass on the wrong side.
And plus, there's usually cars parked there turning south onto the 119th. So they can't use it to get out. And now when a car does turn in to go into their neighborhood, 119th, they can't get out because there's cars parked in the middle. So it's just, that improvement that you made there at 119th really, really stinks. And we live it every day. And I feel sorry for those people. And
so how many hours have you guys actually logged on site, being here, seeing all of the problems that we have now and the stuff that you're trying to address over?
Rob, would you like to answer?
Well, the number of hours, I couldn't tell you. I understand the point. I understand the point that you're trying to make. But we will definitely go back, and thank you for bringing this up, this particular subject at 119th. We will go back and look at that particular segment and see what else could possibly be done and what the issue may be to allow, to allow that left turn movement in both directions, east and west, and how that affects 119th Street. I understand exactly what you're saying. It's similar, not the same, but similar to the gentleman earlier that was talking about trying to get out of Hazel and having conflicts at 121st.
And no one crossed that lane.
So we will go back and take a look at both of those situations.
But here's the thing. I know that you guys have looked at it, and I know, like you said, well, you're going to have to wait for traffic to stop and then let you out. You've literally had to put big white squares on the street out there
to block people.
And you had to
from
put
the
a big sign that says you will be fined for blocking the street. That's how bad it is. I don't think you guys really realize how bad that middle intersection is in just the two lanes. If that light, the only thing that saves these people from so that they can actually get out is that crossing light. If you could think about putting a light in at 119th or somewhere up there, because the poor people on, like say, Ashley and Hazel, it's going to be, I feel bad for them.
And then,
really do.
And then just another point that we're trying to put more traffic on Ridge Road, right? Ridge Road does not currently have any sidewalks past Thurston Groves. And there's been multiple times that people are walking in the middle of the road in the dark and you can't see them. So you guys are putting more risk to those people on Ridge Road.
So I would suggest, if you're going to put that roundabout in there with no sidewalks on Ridge Road, you're going to have to think about putting sidewalks on Ridge Road. And like I said, I've lived here my whole life. I used to throw rocks where the railroad track, where the trail is now. So, we're talking there was a lot of traffic on that road, and I think it's going to revert back to using that, and then it's just going to block up 102nd for the people going straight through to 86th.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments.
Can I have one more comment? Has there been any thought about sending out a survey to all of the residents that weren't able to join Zoom? There's, there's only allowed so many people on the Zoom call. There's people that are, dinner, kids' sports, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of reasons that people couldn't make this meeting. But you have 600. I understand they can go there, but they may not even know about this. Just because there's signs up there doesn't mean that someone's paying attention all the time. You have at least 600 houses on the north side that have no other way out other than 102nd. So I think that a survey sent to someone's home is going to be more effective and allow those people to have a voice as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And I believe that there was a postcard that did go out to everybody so they could participate in today's meeting. We have a capacity of 1,000 people for this meeting, so they could have come. If they couldn't come because they are possibly working at this time or maybe going to church tonight, they can still have their voice heard by writing in or talking to the project manager. And there is a comment card that you could fill out on the website as well. So thank you for your concern for your neighbors, making sure that their voices are heard as well. Tony, should we go on to the
Joan? Yes, Joan. At this point, again, we're about 2 hours plus into the meeting. We're going to move to the written question and answers, and that's how we're going to finish out the meeting with those questions. So if you're in the queue to speak, please type your question into the Q&A, and we'll try to get to as many as we possibly can.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Given the amount of homes along 102nd Avenue, the trail, Walsingham Park, and the horses, the road should be considered a small residential street, and traffic flow should be discouraged and not enhanced. So thank you for that statement. And will you have a physical town hall where members of the public can actually meet and discuss these plans with the planners? And the answer to this is that you can have a one-on-one talk with our project manager. And yes, we can have the plans available and we can go over all your questions one-on-one. And I see the traffic going through the pedestrians light all day. Frequently, cars are running a red light at the crossing. I'm talking 2-3 seconds after it's solid red. Zoom through. Oh my God. I hold my breath, hoping someone doesn't get hit crossing the street. Can we put in a red light camera here? And Tom, I do not believe that we can do red light cameras at that light, can we?
No, the county's policy is not to install the red light cameras. They create a lot more controversy. And so, we adopted the policy a long time ago that we don't do that. What we can do is continue to monitor. We've got the capability, and we do this at this intersection now so that when we stop traffic on 102nd Avenue, we hold it in red for several seconds before we release the pedestrians, just to make sure that all the traffic on 102nd is stopped before anybody starts to move.
Okay, thank you. Arturo, the next question is for you. Are any trees going to be affected or removed further west on 102nd where the buried drainage pipe is proposed to be installed? Also, will mailboxes, including the monument mailboxes, be required to be moved? And if so, will the county pay for those to be relocated?
So no, we're only with this project, only the 4 trees that we mentioned on the southwest corner of Ridge Road are being affected. So we are not anticipating any other trees to be removed or affected as part of this project. When we get into construction, the contractor will, if necessary, remove the mailboxes and reinstall them at no cost to the owners. The county pays for that. It's included in the construction costs once we go there.
Okay, thank you very much. And who did the drainage study? Arturo, our consultant, did the drainage study, correct?
Right. So again, we're at 60% design. So drainage is being studied with the project, and we've already done a good amount of drainage design as part of the 60%.
But there's still more to do.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Agreed with Robert Glass. It is not as bad on the south side trying to head west. It's hard to pull through these extra lanes. Okay, thank you for your comment. The middle lane is also used illegally for passing lane. I have had many near head-on collisions with people using this 45 miles an hour plus. So thank you. And will you make greater efforts to stop heavy trucks using 102nd? We are seeing more volume of trucks beyond the regular delivery vehicles. 4 lanes will make the route more attractive for heavy trucks wanting to make a shortcut. And Tom, can you address that? I don't know if we're making any changes to heavy trucks.
Actually, we've had some conversations with citizens farther west on 102nd, down closer to 137th. So we have enhanced the no parking signs in this area. We've been working with the sheriff's office on directed patrols, and certainly we can continue to do that.
Okay, thank you. And we have the center divide lane at 119th, and no one uses it because of the risk mentioned above, so it does not work. So thank you for that comment, and like Rob said, we'll take a look at that. Tell us more about the drainage plans, and I think that we have talked about the drainage plan some and know that more changes are still going to be happening for that. So Mr. Reed, if you've got specific questions you'd like to ask about the drainage plans, I think that it would be good if you called our project manager, and maybe we can get even Scott to talk to you more about your particular issues. Thank you. Next one is, if using the refuge lane is a waiting lane to merge into the traffic is recommended, what do the people that need to use the refuge lane for turning into their developments when turning off 102nd do when their turn is blocked? And Tom, will you address this, please?
Sure. Yeah, and that's always, a potential concern with these two-way left turn lanes. Again, it's just a matter of being patient, making sure that you're aware of, the traffic that might be in there, and doing the best to be courteous and complete the movements in a safe manner. This is a typical condition anytime we have, these type of two-way left turn lanes.
Thank you. I lived on 102nd Avenue and 118th Street for over 25 years and now live down Nina Street. I think the whole idea is unnecessary and personally have concerns with the vehicles and the pedestrian safety. So thank you for your comment. Exiting Wine Tree Oaks onto 102nd, there have been countless times bicyclists have almost been hit, given the distance between the stop sign and 102nd. Will the larger sidewalk be in the same location as the current, or will it be pushed out closer to 102nd? And Arturo, maybe you can share that and address how far away it is.
Yeah, so again, in this area, we are adding a sidewalk, and you can see it here on the screen.
So it looks like it is coming out closer to the road, so you don't have that distance between the stop sign.
In between Wintry and 121st.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, do you have community representatives on this planning committee group? And I don't know the answer to that. Arturo? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Maybe Rob.
No. On the planning committee group, we have our professional staff in-house and our consultants that are designing the project, and we use these public outreach moments to gain the comments from the citizens that use this corridor on a daily basis. And that's why we're meeting tonight to gain those comments. But if you will give us a call, talk to the project manager, talk to me, talk to Arturo, talk to Tom, any of us in here, we will be more than happy to address your comments and try to better understand what your situations may be on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you. The proposed sidewalk would be better used on Ridge Road since there's no sidewalks beyond Thurston Groves. I see many people walking in the street and making this very dangerous after dark. So thank you. Are any plans in progress for improving Ridge Road to handle additional traffic generated by this project? In particular, a four-way light at Walsingham Road and Ridge Road is needed, and widening and improving the road and sidewalks. Rob, are there any other plans for improving beyond this project?
In the west direction, yes. Going east, we do not have any plans at this time. And Tom addressed earlier that we do know of some situations along 102nd, east of 113th, that we need to take a look at, and we'll be looking at those in the future. East of 125th, we do have another project that is getting ready to start in the what we call the preliminary engineering report phase, where we are going to take a look at what the needs are for 102nd Avenue, west of 125th Street. And that will go to 137th Street. That study is going to look primarily at drainage, but it would also look at the roadway, necessary road improvements in that segment as well, including the addition of sidewalk on the north side of 102nd there at Walsingham Park between 131st Street and the entrance to Walsingham Park.
Okay, and what about Ridge Road? Because they had asked about Walsingham Road and Ridge Road.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was focused on 102nd east and west of there. On Ridge Road, no, there are no future improvements planned on Ridge Road. Taking a look at some of the concerns that have been mentioned about sidewalk, there is sidewalk along Ridge Road south of 102nd that the roundabout will connect to. The sidewalk will connect to that sidewalk on the west side of Ridge, south of 102nd Avenue. And then we do have sidewalk along Ridge going north.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Tom, I'm going to pass you the next one. How are you going to regulate the dangerous e-bikes that speed up and down sidewalks?
Yeah, no, great question, great observation. This is something that we're dealing with now countywide. We know it's got the attention of the sheriff's office. Yeah, this is going to be an issue that we're working closely with partners to try to get it under control, not just along this road, but like I said, countywide, along the trail. We get a lot of complaints about that situation right now.
Thank you. Moving on, won't swales increase mosquitoes? And Pavan, is Scott still here?
Yeah, still here.
Okay, Scott, could you tell us, are you adding swales, and will that increase the mosquitoes?
No, these will be typically shallower swales, which wouldn't typically hold water that mosquitoes would grow in. The water would percolate out before that would happen.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any consideration given to establishing a dedicated right turn only lane from eastbound 102nd Avenue to southbound 113th Street? Arturo, could you?
Yeah, so we had that question. That's something we'll have to go back and look at. The traffic studies that we have right now don't show the need for that, but we can go back and take another look at that.
Okay, great. Thank you. And sorry about this, Jennifer. My question was cut off. Please retry to answer. I am so sorry, Jennifer. I don't know what the question was that you had, but we will take a look to see if we can find it in the meantime. Going on, what is the value of mast arms? It seems those will be a maintenance issue due to damage from drivers trying to evade the arm barriers. And Tom, I don't know if they understand mast arms.
Not a problem. I'll take a shot at this. So when it comes to traffic signals, we've got two ways that we install them. One is with concrete poles and span wire. And then the other is with the mast arms, which is a lot more rigid, a lot more durable, and they hold up a lot better during, major storms, similar to the storm season we had last year. So we're actually in the process of applying for grant funding to upgrade existing span wires to mast arms, just to make them a lot more sustainable and resilient. So, when it comes to the placement along the edge of the road, we try to place them far enough away so that they don't become a hazard to the motorists, and they're also far enough off so that if there is an accident and they do get impacted, that it's less likely they're going to get hit or damaged significantly.
Okay, thank you. And Tom, we did find Jennifer's question again, so I'll read it again and maybe you can expand on it. Hello, how will the new light at 125th be timed? I'm concerned about the extra wait time in getting out of the northern neighborhood when there's no traffic on 102nd Avenue.
Sure. So when it comes to the timing of the lights, it's primarily based on the demand. So if there's more demand in the east-west direction, which we expect here at 102nd, the majority of the green time will go to those movements. But we do provide vehicle detection, both with the what you typically see with loops in the road, but also video detection. So all the movements have some form of vehicle detection so that, in the middle of the night when there's not a lot of traffic and somebody comes up on the side street, they get detected. It sends the information to the controller, and the controller changes the timing to provide the green time, and then it'll revert back to the main street.
Okay, thank you. And Rob, I'm going to give the next question to you. How will the mailman run across oncoming traffic to deliver the mail? I'm sure the UPS will not allow this.
Yeah, I think Arturo's response may have been misunderstood. What he was trying to explain is that with that two-way center turn lane, when the mailbox, and we see this even on two-lane roadways, right? If you with curb and gutter, if you're traveling down any roadway and the mail is being delivered, and the mailman stops to put mail in the box on the side of the street, what do cars typically do? If there's oncoming traffic, the cars will stop behind the postal carrier. If there's no vehicles coming and there's room to pass, then they'll pass around. That's what he was referring to with having that two-way center turn lane. There would be the capability for vehicles to go around that stopped mail truck to continue on moving. The mail carrier, you're right, is not going to get into the center turn lane to deliver mail. It's the opposite.
Okay, thank you. Next one is, please more fully explain why you believe our properties won't be at risk for increased storm flooding after you add more concrete roadways and remove the current soil and grassy areas that currently aid drainage. And Rob, maybe you can expand on that.
Okay, yeah. And that's an obvious concern, and that is what we plan for. Whenever we add impervious surface, which is the roadway, the sidewalk, concrete, things of that nature, we have to account for that. We have to take that amount of water that through the storm, and there's calculations for that and models for that our engineers use. They have to calculate that amount of water that's falling on that impervious surface, take into account where that sidewalk or that roadway slopes to, where that water is going to go, and then how it's going to get collected. So anytime we add impervious surface, we have to account for that. And we do that either through the open swales, making sure that they're large enough to take that additional water and store it until it gets into a pipe or until it percolates into the ground and just seeps into the ground. Or we capture that into an inlet and the drainage pipe and make sure that the drainage pipe is large enough to hold that water and transfer it down through that drainage way to where it goes now and ends up into the greater system, whether that is a pond, a lake, one of the drainage canals that we have in the county, or into the bay or the Gulf or intercoastal, whichever you have.
Thank you, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
The safety issue is 113th and 102nd. What is being done about that intersection? Rob, this project is not doing anything at that intersection, is it?
Well, it partly is on the west side of the intersection. Okay. Plus, we are adding mast arms, which make the signals even more visible with the traffic, makes them align better with the lanes that the traffic is using and where the signal heads are placed over the lanes appropriately. There will also be additional signal heads to meet current standards today that we cannot place on the existing span wires because the span wires cannot hold the additional heads. So that's one big improvement, is the visibility of the signals and the alignment of the signals within that intersection. On the west side, it was mentioned earlier, we're going to take a look at the traffic volumes, the traffic counts, turning movement counts to see if we need to add an eastbound dedicated right turn lane to turn south on 113th. We're going to take a look at the left turn lane in the eastbound direction that you would use to go north on 113th Street to see if that needs to be lengthened any more than it is today. On the east side of 113th Street, we are not currently looking at that. The project stops at the intersection. But we do know through conversation, through observance of what's going on out there, we do know that there are issues east of 113th Street on 102nd Avenue. We are going to look at those in a subsequent project, and we will do a study on that to determine what is currently going on, what is causing the issue, and how to resolve it.
Okay. Thank you, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
I might have missed this, but the mountable curb is only for the roundabout, or is it in front of the residents whose driveways are along 102nd? Toro, it's just for the roundabout.
Just for the roundabout, correct. Okay.
And the mountable curb is mainly for those larger vehicles that need that extra
or emergency vehicles, right?
Okay, thank you. How has the data been collected? I do not recall any electronic collection devices to count the volume on the roadways. Arturo, do you know how the data was collected? I mean, this is for the traffic data. It could have been done with tubes, but it might not have been.
That would be with Pavon.
Okay,
Pavon? Yeah, those were done using tubes.
Okay. And let's see, one of the causes of heavy traffic is the insertion of lane redirection at Ridge and 102nd. That one can no longer travel across 102nd from south to north. So, thank you, Bill. Does the County Commission need to approve this $15.7 million project, or has it already been done so? And Rob, you can explain that they've already approved the budget.
The budget is what the County Commission approves. Yes, we design the project, we plan for that project, and we go through the process of building our capital improvement program. And as we do that, that goes to the Board of County Commissioners. And they routinely ask questions about our projects and what's the purpose for them, and is the money worth that improvement? And we have to respond to the County Commission that either yes it is and why it is, or that no it is not. And they make the decision whether to continue to fund in that program for that project or not to. And at this point, they have approved for it to move forward.
Okay, but it once it's assigned a contractor, it still has to go back to the County Commission.
the county commission does have to review that recommendation for award and actually award the project. And it could be stopped at that point if they choose to do so. But there would have to be specific reason to stop it at that point. Basically based on the bid, not the project itself.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we used to call the third lane the kamikaze lane. I can anticipate head-on situations when cars coming out of Hazel Street going east with cars coming out of 121st going west. Comments. And I think that is something that we've already talked about, especially at 119th. So maybe we can take a look at that same thing at 121st. Arturo, is that right?
Yep.
Great. I'm confused about the roundabout. 2 lanes going west, then merging into one. Where? And I think that we have mentioned the 2 lanes are east and west. Still 1 lane going north and south. The east lane going in the westbound movement will drop the 1 lane at Thurston Groves. And there it shows the right turn lane into Thurston Groves Boulevard. Okay. 118th and 119th handle over 150 homes with 102nd as their only access. Can a light at 102nd and 119th be synchronized with the trail to give them access to the roadway, as traffic does not give space to join the pack? And I think that we already talked about that as well. The distance is too close to have another signal at that location. If those that live here for more than 40 years now know there is no drainage problems from 119th to 125th, why put in curbs on the north side of 102nd and widen a sidewalk on the south side of 102nd that will only damage our beautiful swale drainage and the environmental impact? Rob, do you want to talk about why we're doing this?
Yeah, one thing that we've not actually mentioned tonight, and that's my fault, I apologize for that. The application of the raised curbs on this project is twofold. One, it is to clean up the traffic situation on the project, and that's greater than just traffic flow. It's greater than just looking at the way traffic moves. It's cleaning up the roadway to make it function better and to make it function more safely. The other aspect is that adding raised curbs on this roadway tends to slow traffic down. Now, if we were looking at widening it out to a 4-lane divided roadway, maybe not so much. That the additional lanes would allow traffic to continue to move quickly, fast, at a fast pace. But keeping it at the 1 lane in each direction with the 2-way center turn lane, what we find through experience, through studies, is that adding that raised curb tends to slow vehicles down. So you add all of that with the additional lane in the center for the left turns. We're looking at that increasing or rather improving the traffic flow and the efficiency of how that traffic moves, allowing vehicles that are turning left to get out of the way of the through vehicles, and also allows space to develop between those through moving cars to allow the left turn movements to come out of the side streets and to go into the side streets from that 2-way center turn lane. So it functions in a lot of different ways.
Thank you. The light at 125th will definitely affect traffic adversely, just like the one at Tilly's does. Quit with the lights. Thank you for that. Years ago, Ridge Road had stop signs. There were many accidents as well as several deaths. A roundabout will be much worse for accidents and deaths. Roundabouts are more of a driving opportunist type solution, not a traffic control device. Please reconsider. Thank you. Do you say the volume of traffic on 102nd in this area has decreased since 107? That's 100% false. Please repeat the data that was cited a moment ago. Rob, I think that was when we were talking about the last study.
That's correct. And I just looked at that in preparation for this presentation and tonight's meeting. When I looked back at the traffic volumes from the study that was performed in the 2004 to 2007 timeframe to today, the traffic volumes have actually decreased. Now, getting back to the percentage, the number of vehicles decreased, I don't recall that percentage, but I do know that that traffic volume has decreased over that time.
Okay. But beyond that, when we look at the traffic, we're not just looking at the traffic now. We're looking at the traffic
in the future,
like in 2040. So we're looking at whatever kind of increase of traffic amount.
That is correct.
Okay. Going on, the light at 125th will definitely back up traffic. It'll grossly impact the traffic, but come back and see for yourself. So thank you. The neighborhood behind to the north has very few homes, and that means very few leave that neighborhood. So really, no need to place a light. Thank you. For clarity, the correlation between 125th Street and the trail means they both go red at the same time. Is that correct? And Tom, that would be for you.
Thanks for the question. Not necessarily at the same time, but the idea would be that if you're westbound on 102nd and you get stopped at the trail, that by the time you get up to 125th, we can time the lights so that that's not also still red, or that it's not turning red just as you get up there. Likewise, in the eastbound direction, that's what we mean when we talk about a coordinated signal system. And the spacing makes it ideal. You know, if we can keep the spacing of the signals consistent, it's a lot easier for us to coordinate both directions of travel, both eastbound and westbound. But no, the idea is that once you get released at one of the intersections, that you won't have to get stopped at the next couple as you're making your way. And that's typical along any corridor, not just 102nd Avenue.
Okay, thank you. The concern about the refuge lane I made earlier was not addressed. Like Nancy Haig mentioned, people will use the refuge lane as a means of merging on into traffic, essentially preventing people who are already traveling on 102nd, preparing to turn into the development, blocking them. What can be considered to prevent the refuge lane from being turned into a traffic merging lane instead of a lane to be used for turning into develops? It already happens at 118th and 119th. And Tom, I don't know if you want to say anything more about that. I mean, I know that we're going to take a look again at 118th, 119th, but is there anything more you want to talk about the refuge lane where people are trying to turn out as turning in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had some good comments tonight about the proximity of some of these cross streets, and we will take a look at that. Now, you know, right now we don't have any barriers in that turn lane, but you know, if there becomes a problem, you know, what we've done in other locations where we've got two-way left turn lanes, you know, we will put up barriers to prevent the type of activity that you're talking about, either the passing or, you know, the long merging, you know, trying to get up to speed before you jump in. And we'll just have to take a look at it by location, case by case. But, you know, we have put those treatments in. We don't like to do that because it does start to, cause some access issues, and we have to be very careful that we're not blocking access from somebody's driveway or from the side streets. But again, you know, the good comments, we will take a look and see if there's anything. And, you know, we understand that, you know, this will be a transition period when it gets constructed, and, you know, we'll be out there monitoring it and, you know, keeping an eye on the conditions.
Okay, thank you. Why are you accommodating drivers breaking the law at Ridge Road? Increase the height and length of the concrete divider so a roundabout is not required. Thank you. The postcard is not the same as a resident survey, and many older residents aren't technically comfortable with Zoom or these formats. Please strongly consider a resident survey given the impact of the changes. So thank you for that. How will the unanswered questions be responded to? Will I be able to see my neighbor's questions and not get any answers? And I think that at this point, we are going to actually answer all the questions tonight. Any questions that you have beyond this, you will have a chance to put in the comment cards, but the comment cards are public record and will be part of the project. But you may not see something that your neighbor has put in if they didn't type it in this forum. When can we have a person meeting with members of your group so you will be able to try and make sense of your improvement projects, please? Rob, I don't know how to answer when because it kind of depends on schedules.
Well, if you would like to meet with the project manager, myself, or Arturo, you're more than welcome to give us a call. You can give Kathy a call, the project manager, and she can schedule something for you to come into our office and we can sit down in our conference room and go over the plans with you. More than happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Have you taken into account the large amount of traffic volume increase by opening up legal through traffic on Ridge Road using the roundabout? This is going to be dangerous. And I think that we answered that yes, we did come up with the amount of volume of traffic that would be on Ridge Road that would be going through the roundabout, as well as looking at future traffic for future years. Was any AI or automation used to determine the feasibility of these changes? And Rob, I do not know the answer to this.
No, we don't use AI for developing plans and projects. What we do use are computer programs for generating the traffic through well-documented requirements, such as how does traffic volume split in directions? How do we calculate peak hour volumes for the morning and the afternoon to determine the overall volumes and the turning movements that occur along the roadway? There's a lot of different factors that go into what we use, but we do not use AI, no.
Okay, thank you. We have a positive comment. I live on Ridge Road and I have to make the left to go home daily. It is highly dangerous making the left turn from westbound 102nd turning south onto Ridge Road. The queue has been so backed up before that as folks speed through the intersection, then zip and cut over, have caused rear endings and encounter multiple close calls along with side swipes before their lane is forced to turn right. I was hesitant at this roundabout discussion at first, but after further review, I greatly appreciate this change to make traffic a bit slower and continuous after the lights. I do wish there would be future design inspection for the east side of 113th to limit so much aggression that is not within the project's corridor. Thank you for having this open discussion. So thank you. Do you guys know we are at 70 feet above sea level? We have no drainage problem. Okay, thank you. You all keep talking about flow. I think I can speak for all the residents between 113th and 137th. We do not want to increase flow. With increased flow, there's increased volume. With this being a recreational area with the trail, the park, and the horse equestrian, we should be talking about how to slow the traffic on 102nd for the safety of the recreational users. So thank you. Will the flashing light turn, a flashing yellow turn option be added at 113th, allowing traffic from 102nd to turn onto 113th north-south when traffic allows? And I think that will go to Tom. I don't know if we're doing any flashing yellow lights with the mast arms.
Yeah, we can certainly take a look at that. As Rob said, the existing span wire out there probably doesn't allow for it currently, but with this mast arm configuration, we can certainly take a look at it. I'm not, and yeah, we can follow up with that. Unless there's a safety reason not to do that, that's typically what we would do as a initial treatment.
Okay, thank you. Thurston's Groves Boulevard turning left eastbound is faced with 2 lanes merging to 1. We feel this is efficient. So, okay, thank you. If your supplication is to time the lights, then when traffic approaches a light that is timed, then it will hold them and not allow travel per the time. How about a pressure pad? Tom?
Sorry, which comment are we looking at?
It is Tammy Swinson's. If your stipulation is to time the lights when the traffic approaches a light that is timed, then it'll hold them and not allow travel per the time. How about a pressure pad? Maybe talk about the loops that we put in the road.
Yeah, we've got, like I said, we've got a couple different ways that we detect traffic. One is with the loops in the road, and that's pretty standard. And basically that sends a signal to the controller when a vehicle crosses over that loop. We also use video detection, which is actually a little bit more reliable, that picks up the vehicles. And again, the idea is to make sure that we're servicing all of the movements at an intersection in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay, thank you. Currently, the southbound sidewalk between 121st Street and Windtree is along the fence line and far away from busy 102nd. Why is that section being moved next to 102nd? It'll be less safe to walk pets so close to the road. And then Turo, maybe you can tell what is the distance between the curb and the sidewalk? Or maybe Pavan.
Yeah, Pavan, do you have some of that information with you?
So can you repeat that again between Windtree and the 121st?
Between 121st and Windtree, right now the sidewalk is along the fence line, so it's far away from the busy 102nd. Why is that section being moved out next to 102nd? It'll be less safe to walk pets so close to the road.
So the reason behind is there are 2 intersections so close by, Windtree Boulevard and the 121st Street North. So you want to make sure the road pedestrians are crossing near the intersection for safety in front of the stop bar, rather than becoming like a mid-block crossing within the side street, which is unsafe condition. So we're trying to improve that condition and move it closer to the roadway so they can cross the roadway at the intersection safely.
Okay, but is the sidewalk right next to the curb? I mean, is there going to be a green space between the road? Okay. Yes. I mean, how far away? I mean, will you feel like you're walking next to the road, or is it going to be a safe distance away?
There will be a grass strip between the curb and the sidewalk.
Okay. Thank you. And a follow-up to my question regarding your data that there was less volume of traffic in 2007 than in 2025. Have you done a residential density study to account for this decrease? Also, when was Ridge Road through traffic restricted? Is this a factor in the volume said decrease? There has never been more volume in the last few years, very long-term resident. So, Rob, will you address this one more time?
Well, we'll be glad to take a look at that again. But yes, when I compare the traffic volumes from the previous report to the report done for this project, the traffic volumes had decreased. But we'll go back and take a look at that one more time. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. And at this time, Tony, we have completed all of the written questions. So I'm going to pass this. Oh, we did get one more. Hold on. Can the decision for moving the entire sidewalk between 121st and Wintry be reevaluated? So Pavan, that section that we were just talking about, can we take another look at that?
So in order to do that, we still need to cross the sidewalk closer to the roadway, and we have to come back and move back again to the roadway. So it's gonna feel like a S-curve at the intersections and come back with a short distance. Most likely that will impact drainage by doing that. So I would suggest keep it the way we have it, but we can certainly recheck it again.
Yes, we can take a look at that again to see, reevaluate the proximity of the sidewalk to the backup curb. And we will keep the crossing at the intersection for safety of the pedestrians crossing both Wintry and 121st. But between the two, we can take a look at that in comparison to the drainage design and see if there's room to provide greater distance between the backup sidewalk or between the sidewalk and the backup curb, excuse me.
The sidewalk would do a little meandering in that area if we did something like that.
Can certainly take a look at that.
So, okay. So we answered that one and I answered that one. And the reason the traffic volume decreases because of Almerton is undergoing major construction in 2007. So more traffic was seeking the use of 102nd at the time. So that's an observation. So at this point, we have read all of the comments. So Tony, I'm passing it back to you.
Thank you, Joan. That was a long one of our longer ones. And thanks everybody for being with us tonight. We mentioned earlier that we hope you'll go to the project website and fill out a comment card. We're particularly interested in your views after this meeting tonight. You may also want to bookmark that project website because that's where we post updates about the project on the project websites. Of course, you're welcome to reach out to Kathy at the contact information shown on the slide. Kathy Fernandez, she's the project manager. And you heard Rob say that you can reach out and schedule a meeting, and staff will meet with you at the Public Works Complex or the CIP, the Capital Improvements building, and go over the plans with you. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Have a great night and great rest of your week.